Hey friend, are you a woman who wants to conquer your fears, and especially your fear of failure, so that you can follow through with God's plan? Are you, just think of what that would mean for the way that you show up for your relationships with God, with your family, with your friends, with your coworkers, and even with yourself. If you are ready to say enough is enough and shed the masks that are hiding the gift of the real you, the woman that God created you to be, then this podcast is for you. And we're going to have so much fun along the way. Welcome to Women Created and Called Live, Episode 1. Give me just a quick moment here to make sure that I am live. I've had so much technical difficulties this morning, so it's amazing because, everything that went right during the testing went wrong when it was actually time. So we're on to plan B, and I am live on Facebook. And then we'll get it posted in the usual, supposed to be the usual spot over on YouTube. So today we are talking about the masks that we wear. And I am Beth McGrain-Tran, and I'm your guide on this journey as we go through this podcast of Women Created and Called Live. And when I say the masks that we wear, yes, I am aware that that is a title that could be a little bit controversial. Potentially, could be a little bit risky, but I promise there's no politics happening here. I am not literally talking about a piece of cloth that we wear across our face. I am talking about the kinds of masks that are much more sneaky, and we might not even be aware or even notice that we're wearing them. So, what is a mask in this context that I'm talking about? Very simply, my simplest definition for you is anything that is contrary to the me I am made to be, including sin and other struggles that I go through on a day-to-day basis. So when I say this, I mean masks are actually created by a repeated thought or action that is just not the woman that God made me to be. So this could include thought errors. I'm sorry. So what I want to tell you is that thought errors that are easily dismissed or poorly chosen actions that are quickly corrected do not necessarily create a mask. These masks that I'm talking about are thoughts and actions that have been repeated enough to become a habitual part of a false identity. And I call that an identity trap. And so here's a few examples, okay? A few examples might be maybe unhealthy patterns of eating sweets. I know I am a person who loves to eat sweets, but if it becomes, something that is so much of a habit that it becomes an addiction and I can't really break out of it, that can actually become like a mask. You might think to yourself, because you feel like you can't get out of it, you might think to yourself, I am a person who can't resist sweets. That's not actually you, though. That's a mask. Another example could be frequently using vulgar language. That's not who you're made to be. Another one could be being overly critical or judgmental of others or even of yourself. And when we're talking about, being overly judgmental or critical of ourselves, that I'm talking about like those mean sentences that are just playing on repeat over and over in your head. And they're just always there. So these masks could also be, you might be hearing my little definition, my description here and thinking, oh, so kind of like a vice. Yes, they could definitely be called a vice. But I love to call them masks because it reminds me that they are not a part of the real me. They are simply a layer that is covering up the real me. So if I have a vice, again, that's not the person that I am created to be, and therefore that's not the real me. It's like I'm wearing a mask because that is something that I have identified as, that I'm showing the world, this is me, but really it's not. It's just something that has become habitual, a thought or an action. So why are these masks even part of our reality? I was thinking about this, and I think that the number one reason where it all started is because of our fallen nature. And so that means that it began with original sin. And because of original sin, our natural trajectory is not toward heaven. We are actually inclined naturally towards sin. And that is why we needed Jesus to die on the cross for us, to make all of the graces that came from that available to us so that we can be moved to a different trajectory. Father Mike Schmitz has a fantastic video about this, and I will leave the link to that in the show notes, in the description. So God has a remedy for this natural trajectory. Like I said, He sent His only Son to die on the cross for us so that all of those graces would be available. And also, He gives us life. Life is an opportunity for us to grow closer to Him and be perfected by His grace, especially through the sacraments. So why do you and I end up wearing these masks? Besides where it all began, there are different situations that we might find ourselves in that we just get used to these thoughts and these actions. And so because they're a habit, they just come back over and over again. Here's a few examples. We might wear a mask like I'm talking about to fit in with the status quo or to live up to expectations. And these expectations could be coming from others, or it could be expectations that we're putting on ourselves. Sometimes we want to keep our distance emotionally, so we might wear a mask to kind of hide in that situation. Sometimes we want to maintain a sense of control, especially if we are in any kind of a situation that feels out of control. If it feels chaotic around us, then we want to maintain that that sense of control. And so we might put up a mask showing how in control we are, even though we don't feel like it. Sometimes we might wear a mask because we are afraid of giving too much. And that is very much related to this last one. Pretty much all of these come down to protection from our fears. So like I said, if we want to wear a mask because we're afraid of giving too much, sometimes we're afraid that if we do give too much, then we might get hurt. So that's what most of these fears will come down to. It's your brain actually trying to protect you. And when we hide like that, when we put up these masks, it feels like safety. And so because it feels safe, even in one situation or in a few situations, then our brain learns, oh, that kept me safe. That worked. So I'm going to keep doing it. So your brain will keep offering that as an option, even if it's something that is really not good for you and possibly not safe. So the first step to managing these masks or getting rid of them even is awareness. And so let's do a little exercise here. I am going to name an area of your life, and I want you to think about all of the ways, all the different kinds of masks that you might be wearing in that area of your life. And I'm going to go a little bit slow so that you can have an opportunity to write these things down. Grab a pen and paper and really write these down so that you have a chance to come back and reflect on them even more later. Now, keep in mind, again, that a mask is a repeated thought or action that is contrary to the woman that God created you to be. And as I go through these, be very, very honest with yourself. Because, like I said, the first step is awareness. And if you are not being honest, then you're not letting yourself be aware. And then you won't make any progress toward getting rid of them and really being the real you. So, the first one, how are you wearing masks when you're having fun and recreation? What are the kinds of masks that you are wearing as you care for your home? This one is kind of interesting. It's like, how do you identify yourself? What are the things that you say about yourself when it comes to caring for your home? How about masks that you might wear in your career or your volunteer work? What are the masks that you see in your career or your volunteer work? How about masks when you are faced with money matters? What kinds of masks do you wear when you're facing money matters? And the next one, what kinds of masks are you wearing around your family and friends? Do they get to see the real you? Or are you putting up a mask around them sometimes? How about in your relationship with your spouse or your significant other? Does that person get to see the real you? And even if you think yes, most of the time, check to see if that's true all the time. What kind of mask might you be wearing in your relationship with your spouse or significant other? And the next one is, how about when you're caring for your health and your well-being? Now for this one, include masks that you might put on even when you look in the mirror. Think about your self-concept, your self-esteem, your self-identity. Do you put up a mask when you look at yourself in the mirror? And the next one is when it comes to your spiritual and personal growth. Are you wearing a mask when it comes to your spiritual and personal growth? And finally, what masks do you try to wear in your relationship with God? Sometimes we even try to put up a mask in our relationship with God. Now, if you are listening to this while you're driving, or you just are busy doing other things as you listen, and you didn't have a chance to write anything down, I really encourage you to circle back to the replay, rewind, pause, listen as many times as you need to, because like I said, it's really important that you take the time to reflect on these. I cannot emphasize how important it is that you become aware of where you are right now. So, what are the kinds of things, the kinds of results that we get when we're wearing these masks? There are many, many things that they could cause, of course. But here's a few that I thought of. We can find ourselves just drifting through life, very unfulfilled. We might believe the lies about ourselves. And if we are wearing masks, these different kinds of masks, for so long, what can happen is that we can forget or just not know who we are anymore. So in that case, it's really hard to know, where does the pretending end and the real you begin? It can also result in expectations, again, from others, and expectations that you put on yourself. And these expectations set you up for a cycle of disappointment. And often, remember how I said earlier, sometimes we're wearing these masks to protect ourselves. So sometimes wearing the mask itself can actually result in exactly the thing that you were trying to protect yourself from. And this is very sneaky because it takes a little bit of digging to really see that. But because this is a little sneaky, I'm going to give you a little example. And so in this example, let's say I am trying to hit some kind of a goal. Okay, every time I say hit my goal or anything like that, you insert something that you really want. And so it could be, let's see, let me give another example. Something that you intend to do. I really want to, I don't know, a really goofy example just entered my mind. I want to go fly a kite. That really makes no sense. But I'm just going to give you the example that I wrote down. So my thought might be, I'm afraid I won't hit my goal, whatever that goal might be again. So that's my thought. I'm afraid I won't hit my goal. Now, the identity trap or the mask is, I never hit my goals. Now, if I have seen this over and over, if my brain sees me over and over not hitting my goals, it's going to offer up this mask. And it's going to try to make me believe that I never hit my goals. And that may or may not be true. The point is, it doesn't really matter. It's not a helpful thought. So that's the mask. So what am I trying to protect myself from in this scenario? like I said earlier, I'm trying to protect myself from the disappointment of not hitting my goal. Because of all the things that, if I don't hit my goal, then all of these other thoughts come up, and all these other thoughts come, and I make it mean something about me. It's not a separate thing, but it's like not hitting my goal, and all these thoughts start to attack me, really. So then what's the result? If I am protecting myself from the disappointment of not hitting my goal, then the result is that I don't take the actions necessary to hit my goal, and therefore I didn't hit it, and I'm disappointed, which is exactly the thing that I was trying to protect myself from. And in that case, it's really interesting because it's almost like, my brain would be trying to protect me from even being successful. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead of myself a little bit. I was about to say that in the next one. Anyway, when we talk about the results of these masks, sometimes we can feel really trapped. And it might feel like showing the real you is an even bigger risk than wearing that mask. Think about how that's true. Think about some of those masks that you thought about in that exercise. Are there any of them that you think, boy, if I got rid of that mask, that actually would be really scary? You might feel really vulnerable. Again, sometimes we put them up as protection against our fears. And yet, they're not helping you be the woman that God created you to be. So, from the example above, again, what if I did hit my goal? If I did hit my goal, especially if it's a really big goal, then probably more fears are going to come up. And other people might have higher expectations of me, and I might have higher expectations of myself. And then what if I fail? Right? So your brain is offering up all of these things. And so in this case, this is what I was referring to earlier. In this case, it would be that there's a fear of success, actually. Because if I did succeed at the goal, then everybody's expectations get higher, including, the pressure that I put on myself to succeed again. And then what if I fail? What if that was just a fluke? So these are some of the results that can happen when we're wearing the masks all the time. So what's the remedy? Like I said, God has a remedy for us for this, and it is His grace. So the first step in finding this remedy for these masks that you've been wearing, that now you're aware of, hopefully, if you did that exercise, is to learn who you really are. Learn who God created you to be. And here's the truth. God created you to be a saint. Meaning, He wants you to live with Him forever in heaven. That's what you were created for. And because of that, you were literally created to be divinized. It tells us in Scripture that God wants you to share in His divinity. He wants to share that with you. That is your inheritance. So, the first step, like I said, is to learn who you really are, as in who God created you to be. And there are ways to do that. I can help you with that. The next part is to learn your equipment. And here's the thing. As you get to know Him, as you get to know God, then you get to know yourself. You get to know that woman that He made you to be. The next step is to commit to being the real you. And then after that, you get to act from your authentic being. The you without the mask. You get to take off those masks, smash them up if you want. Sounds like fun, right? I just picture like some sort of either those porcelain masks that maybe you might see in New Orleans, or maybe some kind of a wood mask or something like that. You know, picture those theatrical, very interesting looking masks. And I just picture, take it off and smash it with a hammer. I would not actually do that because they're beautiful works of art, but it's just what I'm picturing in my mind. So to do all of these things, it really takes time to discover and learn how to lower those masks and keep them off. Because if we don't learn how to keep them off, then it's very easy for us to pick them up again, put them on again. Because again, they feel safe. And so your brain will want you to pick them up and put them on. It feels safe. It feels easy. But as we know, it's not always going to be easy because it creates other problems. So this podcast, as we go through the year here, will help you explore these things, you know, the masks that you wear and how you can learn who you really are, how you can learn your equipment, how you can commit to being the real you, and how you can actually act from your authentic being. So this podcast will help you explore it, and coaching actually helps you do the work, because it does take a little bit of work. I am here to show you what's possible, to encourage you, and to give you hope. And if you would like to know how life coaching can support you, then grab the link that will be in the description of this video and this episode if you are listening on audio. And grab that link so you can get onto my calendar and let's have a chat. Meanwhile, if you are excited about this new podcast and all of the possibilities ahead, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment because I want to hear from you. Next week, I'm going to have another great episode for you to help you conquer your fears so that you can finally follow through with God's plan for your life. Until then, God bless you and all those that you love. Bye.